Hello again. We are back to look at lesson 921, which is sweeter. We're going to be looking at something called multiplicative growth and percents. And the problem starts out with an introduction, kind of make us have a reason or kind of a set of purpose for problem solving today. Have you ever mixed a powdered drink or soup and found it to be too watery or too strong? In this lesson, you will use mathematics to compare the concentration or strength of two mixtures. As you work today, think about the questions below. How do these mixtures compare? How can we represent it? And how can we convince someone this is true? One of the things about math is it helps us to prove things to other people and to ourselves. We start with problem 929, which is sweeter. Kay and Bill love hummingbirds, and every spring they hang feeders around their gardens with a mixture of water and corn syrup the birds enjoy drinking. Today, they're comparing the sweetness of their recipes shown below. Bill thinks his is sweeter. Mine has 5 cups of corn syrup, and yours only has 3. Kay thinks hers is sweeter, but mine has a higher percentage of corn syrup, she argues. So we have Kay's recipe. It starts with 2 quarts of water, 3 cups of corn syrup. Bill's recipe has gallons of water. Now, I went ahead and I changed the gallons into quarts. And I know that according to my conversions, for every 1 gallon, we have 4 quarts. And for every 1 quart, we have 4 cups. And these two things are important, not just because Bill had a different measurement with his water than Kay had. But if we're really going to look to get a solid understanding of the juice or the hummingbird mix that they're making, we want to make sure that our measurements are all in the same unit so that we can compare things logically and accurately. The next thing we have to do is we need to change the quarts here so that everything in Kay's recipe is in cups. Now, 2 quarts, if I look over here, 1 quart is 4 cups, so 2 quarts would be 8 cups. So that's what I really want to be thinking about when I'm going to try to compare these recipes. Bill has 8 quarts. 8 quarts, 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 4 is 32 cups. So that's what I'm going to be using. I also need to know how much is in the total. What is the total mix in cups? So I'm going to go ahead and add 8 plus 3. That equals 11 cups, and that's how much Kay's mix is making. I'm going to do the same thing over here for Bill. I'm going to find the total, and I'm going to do 32 plus 5, and that gives me 37. Whenever we're comparing things to find the percent, or which is a really good way to compare because we understand, like, if I got a 98%, that means I got a high grade. If I got a 52%, that means I got a low grade. So we kind of have an understanding about percents. So when we want to do percents, we're comparing parts and wholes. So K has the part that is corn syrup is 3 cups corn syrup. Okay. Then she has 11 cups total. That's going to be really an important thing for us to take a look at in just a moment. I want to set this up over here for Bill. And Bill has 5 cups corn syrup out of 37 cups in his total. Now, if you have been working along with me, as most of you have been working so hard, and I'm really so appreciative of it, If you've been working along with me, you'll be noticing that we have a fraction set up here. Fractions we can think of as miniature division problems. And when I do the math, it's easier with these kind of numbers to do it with a calculator. So, handy calculator here, and I'm going to put in my 3 divided by 11, and that gives me 27 repeating. And actually, it's 27 hundredths repeating. So it's 0 and 27 repeating. This number I can multiply times 100, and that will change it to the percent. And if you're thinking back to all of our work with percent rulers, this fraction, this decimal, and now this percent all talk about the same amount, the same portion of something. Over here, we are going to do the same type of thing with Bill. Bill has 5 cups of corn syrup divided by 37 in his whole mix. Let's just do that one more time. 5 divided by 37 equals, all right, his equals 0, and we're going to multiply that times 100, and our answer is going to be, so you can see it in the calculator, 13.5%. So we're gonna round that to the nearest tenth in this case. So that's Bill's, this is K's, and now we can think about which number is bigger. 27% out of 100 or 13.5% out of 100. Think about that for a moment. Which information is most important to decide which mixture is sweeter? The amount of corn syrup in each recipe or the percentage? Well, if we look at this work that we just did, we kind of can see that the percentage is going to give us a more accurate read on the sweetness of the mixture because Bill has more corn syrup, but he also has more water. And so the percentage, when I compare the part to the whole in the mix, comes up with K's recipe is sweeter. All right, and then the last problem we're going to do today together. Kiana read that hummingbirds prefer food that is approximately 20% corn syrup. If she wants to make 8 quarts of this hummingbird food, how much corn syrup should she use? All right, well, we're going to go ahead and quarts is a lot to work with. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a percent ruler. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. There's 100% there. And over here we have 0%. And I'm going to take a look at 8 quarts. And 8 quarts, according to my conversion up here, 8 times 4, that makes 32 cups. And in parentheses, I'm going to write 8 quarts. Now, if I want to go ahead and I'm going to use this percent ruler to help me figure out what is the optimal amount of corn syrup. In order for me to get from 32 down to 20, that's kind of complicated. So I'm going to do one more percent in here. And I'm going to think in my head and think out loud, probably as you're listening to me, you're wondering why I'm talking about thinking in my head. But I'm going to think out loud. 100 divided by what gives me 10%? And 100% divided by 10 Move this up just a little bit so you can see my pondering here, equals 10%. So whatever I do to the bottom of a fraction, I do to, or the denominator, I also do the numerator. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 32 divided by 10. And that's going to give me 3 and 2 tenths. So that's what 10% is. Okay, 3.2. And then to get to 20%, 10 times 2 is 20. 3 and 2 tenths times 2 is 6.4 cups. So this is all we need to do. Now, of course, you could go ahead and finish the whole percent ruler, but I'm good with what we got going here. Please go ahead and remember that part divided by total is going to be one of those special things to remember as you're working on the work for the next few days.